Hello guys, welcome back to our text function class. This is the last part of the class, which is the third part of the class. In our first part of the class, we try to look at concatenate, find, search, upper, lower, proper, right, or left. We've also looked at learn, we've also looked at replace, and some other things that we've looked at. Today we are going to dive a little bit deep into text function. Like I said in our previous class, text function is not an elementary Excel topic. Though we use the first class to set the pace by touching the elementary aspect of text functions. And in the second class, we try to dive a little bit deep into text function. In this class, we are also going to look at how we can use text function to achieve more. Now, text function will be very valuable for those that want to clean up data. For you as a data analyst, it is important for you to have a good knowledge of text function, because there are some dirty set of data that you will come across that you will need to work on. Some data are very dirty that you will need a lot of text function knowledge to work on them, to clean them up. I know there are several applications that can be used to clean up data in data analysis. Now, we are looking at Excel. Excel is one of the basic and very important applications that you cannot do without when you are talking about cleaning up data and working as a data analyst. So it is good to have a very good background knowledge of Microsoft Excel as a data analyst. So, if you look at what we have here, in our first class, we try to look at certain things. Then in the second class, we dive deep a little into some of the things we worked on in our first class. Now, in the first class, we were looking at cleaning up the username and concatenating the username and others. In our last class, which was the second class, we tried to use formula to generate the username. We went further into generating the domain name, and we went further into generating the street address. So in this class, we want to look at some other things, which include getting the house number of the users and then getting the password of the users. Now, let's look at the question we have here. The question we have here is question 5. We are asked to generate a password for all users using a combination of house number, underscore, and first 3 character of the username, with the first character in capital letter. Now, these are the things we need to do in our class. What we need to do in the first place is, let me add a column here. I want to insert a column here, and in this column, I want to use this column to get a formula that we generate the 3 characters, the first 3 characters, the first 3 letters, the first 3 letters of the last name. Let me check that again. Let me be sure of that. Say the first 3 characters of the user name. So now we have 3 things to do here. The first thing is to get the password. We need the first 3 characters, we need the house address, and we are going to concatenate that with, add that with the underscore. So, how do we get the house address of this user? Now, let's look at the user address. I will hide these very ones, these columns. Let's hide this column so that I can have a space to work with. Okay, so we have the address, and what we want to achieve here is to get the house address of the user. The house address of the user in this case we are looking at is 597 for this particular user. So what do we do? If you have been following this class, you will know that we have been using our left function. I know for those that have followed this class can easily get this formula out for us, which is equal. We are using equal left, open bracket. The cell address is L2. And then we want to pick 3 characters from that cell. And then we close our bracket. Press our enter key. That will give us the house address, the house number of the user. But then, if we drag this down, you will realize that this is not giving us the house number of the rest of the users. And that is because in this very formula, we have a constant. And the constant we have in this formula is 3. Now, what do we do in this formula? What we simply did in this formula was to tell Excel to go to the left-hand side of cell L2 and pick the first 3 characters for us, which will work for this, and which will also work for any other one that have 3 characters. Now, if we drag this down to this particular number here, it will give us, this one will also give us the accurate thing. But for others that are not 3 in numbers, we are not going to get the accurate thing. So what we need to do is we need to look for a formula to substitute this very 3, so that the number we need is going to be dynamic. So let's try something here. If you look at this very formula, if you look at the text here, there is something common. There is a common pattern. And one of the common patterns that we can easily use is that after the house number, there is a space. After the house number, there is a space. After the house number, there is a space. So there is a common pattern here which you can utilize. So what we need to do now is we need to find the position this space is occupying. And when we get the position this space is occupying, what we need is from the position the space is occupying, everything before the position the space is occupying, that is the house number of the user. So what do we do? Let's try this. Equal find, open brackets. What are we looking for? Double quote, space, double quote. What we are looking for is space. So put that in double quote, comma, L2. So we are looking for the position, the first space is occupying. So what do we do here? What have we done here now? We've told Excel now to go to cell L2 and look for the first space you can find is cell L2. So when we hit our enter key, that will give us 4. So if you count this now, 1, 2, 3, 4. The first space is in position 4. For this very person, the next person, you find out that the space is in position 5. This one, the space is in position 5. But what we need is not the position 5. So all we need to do is to tell Excel to shift the cursor 1 space backward. 1 space backward. So how do we apply that? To apply that, all we need to do is the same formula, which is equal find, open bracket. What are we looking for? double quote, space, double quote, comma, the cell where we are looking for that being, that is cell L2, and then we close our bracket, minus 1. What does this tell Excel? This is telling Excel, find the position of space, the first space, inside cell L2, and then when you get the position of the space, shift the cursor one space backward. That is exactly what we have just told Excel to do here. So when you press your enter key, you get 3. When you try to use your autofill here, you find out that here we have 4, here we have 4, here we have 5, here we have 4, here we have 5. So it looks like our function is taking shape. So all we need to do is to substitute this, use this formula to substitute this particular 3, which is a constant, which was giving us a problem. So I can simply do this. You can retype it, or I can simply copy only this very formula without the equal sign. Just use Ctrl C, copy that, and then press your escape key. Remember, use your escape key when you copy that. So we can come over here now. What we want to do now is, we want to enter the same formula here, which is equal. We are using the left function, which is equal left, open bracket, equal left, open bracket. What cell are we looking for? The cell we are looking at is cell L2, comma, and if you look at the formula here, that is supposed to be followed by the number of characters. And since we don't know the number of characters, we are trying to create a dynamic function. So what we do now is, we want a bracket here. While I'm putting this, I like putting my formula like this so that it can be more readable. I'm going to paste the entire function that we use to derive this inside this particular bracket. So I can just simply use my Ctrl V to paste that. So what this means is that from this point down to this point is going to generate the number of characters that we need. So when we hit our enter key, that will give us exactly what we want. So let's try that and see. Let's use autofill and drag down and see. And it worked perfectly. So that is one way we can use to get the number of, the house number of the users. Then, after getting the house number of the users, what we can do now is that we can copy this and paste it as a value. Or, alternatively, we can use this formula, combine it to get what we want to do. Now, I'm trying to get you used to, get you used to combining text functions, combining different functions in Microsoft Excel in order to solve very complex situations. So, now for this very one, we are going to use the left function also to get the first 3 characters of the user name. So, to get the first 3 characters of the username is the same thing. We are just simply going to do equal left, open bracket, equal left, open bracket. The cell is cell B2. So, equal left, open bracket, cell B2, comma. This is a constant because we need just 3 characters. So, we close that. And then we press our enter key. That will give us the first 3 characters. But then, if you look at the question that we are asked to, what we are required to do. In this question, we are asked to make sure that the first character in this very first 3 letters, let the first character be capital letter. But in this instance, what you have here, you find out that the first character is not in capital letter. So how do we do that? We remember our function the other time we used. And that function we used that time is upper. So to change to capital letter. But in this case now, we need to use a function called what? Proper. Proper will change the first character to capital letter and leave the rest in small letter. So we can combine these functions to get this done. How do we combine this function? Now look at what we have here. Let me do that. Let's use equal proper. Equal proper. So what do we want to make proper? The question is, whatever we want to make proper, we put it in brackets. So that is what is supposed to be. So now, what we want to make proper now is whatever that is inside this particular bracket. So we can bring in this whole of this function now, formula into this very bracket. And that formula was what? Equal what? Left. Left, open bracket. We are looking at the left hand side of what? Cell B2. Cell B2, comma. The number of characters we want to pick is 3. And then we close the bracket. So what this means is this. Excel is now going to pick whatever, is going to now use whatever is inside this very place and then convert it to proper. I hope you get that. Let me explain that again. This is equal proper. So equal proper is, the formula is equal proper, then in bracket put the text you want to change to proper. So inside that bracket, we are putting in another formula that is going to give us what we need. And that formula is left hand side, go to the left hand side of cell B2, pick first three characters. So it's going to pick the first 3 characters in this way, and automatically it will convert them to proper case. So when we press our enter key, you find out that we have something like this, which is working out for the rest. So now we've gotten this, which is the house address. We've gotten this, which is the first 3 characters in proper format. Now, what we need to do now is we need to combine this and this with underscore to get the function, to get our password concatenated. So let me insert a new, okay. So let me insert a new column here. This column is going to be the password column. So there are many ways you can get things done in Excel. What I'm trying to do, the background I'm trying to lay for us is to understand various ways you can get things resolved in Excel. Now, we can now use a function that is going to concatenate this and this for us. We are now going to use a function to concatenate this and this. So, like I said, there are various ways we can get this done in Excel. So, let's look at one of the ways we can get this done. What if we use something like equal? I'm introducing a formula now, not a function. This is a formula now. Equal whatever we have here. So, equal this. Then I want to join that and personate that with underscore. And how do we introduce underscore? Put it in double quote. Underscore, double quote. Put it in double quote. And then impersonate whatever we have here. So if I press my enter key here, I'm going to have something like this, which is the first 3 characters of that username. Now, in the other way around, if we want the username, the house address to come first before this very one, we can do it in the other way around, which is also easy for us to do, which is using equal whatever that is here. Then we are going to impersonate that with underscore. So underscore impersonate, then we need another impersonation to impersonate that with whatever that is here. And we press our enter key, and that will give us this. If we use our autofill to drag down, and we will get the result like this. So, like I said, there are different ways. I think this one, somebody may say this is a very simple one. But if you want to use this very one, all you need to do is, then we need to hide these very columns. We need to hide this very column. But in the other way around, if somebody tamper with this particular column, it's going to affect our function. If somebody tamper with this column, it's going to affect our function. So we can as well use another method. We can as well use the function. Before we use that method, let's look at the function. We can as well use the function. So we can as well go to this and say text. Under text we have a concatenate. So what do we want as text 1? Text 1 is whatever that is here. And what do we want as text 2? Text 2 is underscore. So we use double quote, underscore, and then double quote. Then what do we want as text 3? Text 3 is whatever that is here. And then we will click OK, and that will give us the same result. Take note, that will give us the same result. But like I said, if anybody tamper with this or this, it will automatically alter the password formula. It will automatically alter the password formula. So what we need to do is, we can as well use a straight formula to get that done. We can as well use a straight formula to get that done. But before we go into the meet function, let's just briefly review some of those things we've done before. When you talk about the left function, it means you are talking about working with trying to pick something from the left hand side of a cell. Let's look at a record like this. We have this particular name. We want to pick only the name of the city. When we want to pick only the name of the city, we can use the left function to pick only the name of the city. So what we can do is, we can get the number of characters we want to pick. In this case, we have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. In this case, we have 11 characters we want to pick. So all you need to do is equal left, open bracket, the cell we want to pick from, that is cell B2. So B2, then comma, the number of characters we want to pick. The number of characters we want to pick in this case is 11 characters. This is what we have just done here. What we have just done here in this formula, in this function, is telling Excel to go to the left hand side of cell B2 and pick the first 11 characters for us. So when you do that, that will give you the name of this particular city. So we can use our autofill, but take note, when you are working with left or right function, this is a constant. You have a constant in the formula, and the constant we have in the formula is 11. So if you use your autofill, this is not going to work for the other names if the other names are more than 11 characters. So all you need to understand is that you need to get a formula to get rid of this particular constant. So in that case, you are now going to make use of some other function, a Z function. So like I told us in one of our class, that some of the text function we are talking about, standing alone, make little or no meaning. But by the time we try to combine them, then you will see that they are working out for us very well. So standing alone make little or no meaning. So but then now let's try to look at the what we can do if we have a case like this. If you have a case like this, all you need to understand is try to look for a criteria, something common that you can use. All you need to do is just think out of the box and look for something common that you can use. If you look at this very case here, we have a dash in front of this one. We have a dash in front of this. We have a dash in front of this. We have a dash in front of this. So all we can do, we can as well look for the position of this dash. And how do we look for the position of the dash? If you have been following my class before, you understand that we can use the find. So what are we looking for? Put what we are looking for, put it in quotes, double quote. We are looking for the dash inside that particular cell. So we are looking for the dash inside what cell? Cell B2. So that is all you need to do to get the position of the dash. So what we are telling Excel, simply telling Excel in this particular formula is go to cell B2, find the position where the first dash is occupying. So when you do that, you will find out that the position is going to be around 12. So when you count here now, you find out that this dash is in position 12. That is in cell B2. Then if you drag it down, you find out that the dash is in different position. So automatically, we are trying to get the position where the dash is in the whole of this. So when you drag it down, let's just drag it down and see. This is the position of dash. But the position we are looking for right now to work with our left formula is not the position of the dash. It's one space backward. It's one space before the dash. One space before the dash. That is the position we are trying to get. So if you use this as it is like this, if you use this to substitute the 11, you are going to have comma attached to the text you are trying to cut. So to get rid of this, all you need to do is the same thing, but let's just add a little thing here. All you need to do is to use our equal find, open bracket, the same thing we are looking for, put it in quotes. That is, we are looking for the position of dash inside the cell B2. Now, when we close our bracket, instead of leaving it like this, we are now going to tell Excel to shift the cursor one space backward after getting the position of the dash. So to do that, we can use our -1. So this is what we are going to use, which is simply going to tell Excel, okay, look for the position of dash. When you get the position of dash, shift the cursor one space backward, and that is the position I'm looking for. So I'll press my enter key, and that will give me 11, which is the same 11 which we use in this particular formula. So all we need to do now is we are now going to substitute this 11 with the formula we have gotten here. So that is what we are going to do. So to do that, let me just copy this formula. I want to copy this formula from this find. This is the formula I need to substitute that 11. So all I need to do, I can just simply copy this formula. When I copy this formula, press your escape key when you copy something like this. Press your escape key. Now I'm coming over here. I've copied it to my clipboard. So all I need to do is the same formula we used before here, which is equal left, open bracket. The text we want to convert to left is the text we have inside cell B2. So the text we want to use is the text we have in cell B2, comma. Then this is supposed to be followed by the number of characters. And since we say we don't know the number of characters, we are going to generate the number of characters dynamically. This function has helped us to generate the number of characters. And what I've done is that I've copied this function into my clipboard. So all I need to do is use my Ctrl V to paste that formula. And I can close the bracket. Now, the whole of this from here to here is now going to give us the number of characters that we want. For you to have, in my work, I like putting this in quote so that it will make my formula to be more readable. Because if you work on certain sheet like this, you may not be there. Maybe tomorrow you may not be there and another person is trying to work on that, edit that particular work. If you leave your work very clumsy, it will be difficult for the person to read. But as it is now, it is easier to read this kind of work. So what we need to do now is, here we've just told Excel, go to the left hand side of cell B2 and pick this number of characters which are inside this particular bracket for us. We'll press our enter key, that will give us this. So let's try that and see. Okay, that we work for the rest of them. I hope this is very clear. Just a recap. What we have done is this. This is the formula that we have just used. Let me just display the formula for us. I want to copy this, Ctrl C. When you copy something from the formula bar like that and you want to use it elsewhere, just press your escape key after copying it. So I want to paste this here as text. So now look at the formula. This is the formula we have just used. Equal left, B3. Now it's going to change because we have the record in different cells. So the one we copied was one in B3. So now this is the formula we have just used to get that done. I hope that is clear. Now the next thing we want to look at is a situation where we have been asked to pick the state code. Now, if we have been asked to pick the state code, if you look at the state code, we cannot use left, we cannot use right. The state code is in the middle. So we are now going to use an Excel text function that is called mid. We are going to use an Excel text function that is called mid. So when you want to use mid, the formula to use mid is equal mid, open bracket. Now look at the formula very well. Equal mid, open bracket, the text you want to pick from. And the text you want to pick from in this context is this particular cell B2. And then that is supposed to be followed by the number where you want to start picking from. That's the position where you want to start picking from. And then it's followed by the number of characters that you want to pick. So in this context, we want to pick from cell B2. That is the cell we want to pick from. Now Excel is asking us, okay, we want to pick from cell B2. but from what position do we want to start picking from? Now, what I want you to understand is that in Excel, when you talk about the mid, Excel regard from O here down to I here as the middle. From the second character down to second to the last character, Excel regard that as the middle of the text. So the middle of the text is not a particular point where we point here, and the middle of the text is from this point down to I. From O down to I, that is where Excel regard as the middle. So Excel is asking you now, tell me the exact position where you want me to pick from. So the exact position where we want to pick from is the position where this dash is. So that is the position. If you remember our first formula, that is the 12th position 12. So from position 12, and how many characters do we want to pick? We want to pick just 2 characters. So we close our bracket and then press your enter key. Now, okay, look at this. The position 12 is this particular dash. So the position we should be talking about is the 13th position. The 13th position. So position 13. And that will give us this. So, but the question now is, if we drag this down, is it going to give us exactly what we want? No. This is not going to give us exactly what we want. So all we need to do is, we have to do something here. The challenge we have here is that 2 is going to be a constant because all the state code are 2 characters. So we don't have challenge with the 2 in our formula. All the state code are 2 characters. But the challenge we have is the position where we want to start picking from. So the position where we want to start picking from is the position 1 space ahead of our dash. 1 space ahead of our dash. So the same thing we did in our previous function. The same thing we did in our previous function. If you look at our previous function, we use this formula from here to this point to get the position of our dash. But we shifted the position of our dash 1 space backward. So I want to copy the same formula. I just use Ctrl C to copy that and then escape. So we are now going to use the same formula to substitute whatever we have here. That is the 13. So what we are going to do now is, let's try that now and see. Equal, remember the formula, equal mid, open bracket, the text we want to pick from, that is the text in cell B2, comma, then this is supposed to be followed by the position where we want to pick from, and followed also by the number of characters we want to pick. And we have copied a formula that we want to use for the position. And this is the formula. But in this context, we are not shifting the cursor 1 space backward. We are getting the position of the dash, and then we want to shift the cursor 1 space forward. Shift the cursor 1 space forward. Then, this very formula now is going to give us our start number. That is the position where we want to start picking from. And then that will be followed by a comma. And the next thing we have is the number of characters. And in this case, we are picking just 2 characters, which is constant in the entire work we are doing. So we use 2 here, and then you can close the bracket. So look at this now. We say go to the middle of cell B2. Go to this particular position. That is using this formula now. Using this formula to get the position we want to pick from, whatever is inside this bracket is going to generate a number. And that number is going to tell us this is the position where we want you to start picking from. And then followed by the number of characters we want to pick. And the number of characters we want to pick is 2. So when you press your enter key, this will give us NV. But let's try and see if that is going to work out for the rest. Wow, it worked exactly as we want. So this is one of the ways we can use the mid function. The mid function can be very helpful when you are trying to clean up data, especially as a data analyst. You come across work like this where your record, the data you collect from different sources are very dirty and you need a lot of things. You need a lot of ideas to clean up your data. So this is how we can work with the mid function. Then after talking about the mid function, the next thing we want to look at is working with the right function. Now we want to use the right function to pick our country. If you look at the country is at the right hand side. And the name of the country, before the name of the country, we have a unique thing here, and that is a dash. We have a unique thing here, and that is what? The dash. And what is the formula for the right? The right is equal right, open bracket. The text we want to pick from, that is cell, in this case cell B2, comma, and that is supposed to be followed by the number of characters we want to pick. In this case, let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's say we want to pick 10 characters here. Close our bracket, press our enter key, and that gives us exactly what we want. But then, if we use our autofill to drag down, we are not going to get the same thing because of the constant that is here, 10. So, can you think of a formula? Can you think of what will help us to get this result? Can you think of anything that will help us to get this result? I know you'll be looking at, okay, let's look for, what if we look for the position of this, that is the forward slash. But then the right function is not going to work easily like that. It's not going to work easily like that. I know that is what in most of my classes, that is always the suggestion the student will suggest. So okay, let's look for the position of this, and then we pick from there. No, it's not going to work out like that, because what we want to pick is this number of characters from the right hand side. We are looking for this number of characters from the right hand side, and for this we are looking for the number of characters from the right hand side. So what we are going to use is, let me introduce something else. Let's think out of the box so that we can get something, can get a formula that will help us to do this. Like I told us, there are many ways of getting things like this done in Microsoft Excel. If I'm going to do this, and I'm going to use formula to get this done, what I will use is, I will first of all use my len function. I'll use my len function. And what do I want to use len function to do? I want to use len function to find the number of characters that are in this particular column, in this particular cell. And to do that is equal len, open bracket, the text where we want to pick from, we want to find the length, and that is the text I have inside cell B2. I close my bracket, press my enter key, and it tells me that I have a total of 25 characters inside this particular cell. So, if I have a total of 25 characters inside this particular cell, now the next thing I'm looking for is, if I have this inside this particular cell, if I have a total of 25 characters inside this particular cell. I'm going to find the position of this particular forward slash. So to do that is equal find. So I'm using another formula called find. If you have been following me in the class, you will know we've used find severally. So put what you want to look for, put it in double quotes. And what cell are we looking at? What cell do we want to find that? We want to find that inside cell B2, close bracket, and press my enter key. So it tells me that I have this inside in the position 15. I have this as the total number of characters in this very cell, and I have the position of dash inside this particular cell at position 15. So if I remove from this forward slash, if I find the length of what is in this very cell and I remove everything from the forward slash, whatever is left is the number of characters that I'm looking for. Whatever is left is the number of characters that I'm looking for. So if I do this now, equal, this is the length minus this position, and that will give me what? 10. And that is going to be the same thing for the rest. That is going to be the same thing for the rest. So if you look at what we have here, let me reduce this a little bit. I'll reduce this. I'll reduce this. Okay. So if you look at what we have here now, we try to look for the length of what we have here. And then we try to look for the position of the forward slash. And when what we are trying to do now is check the length of what we have here, check the position of the forward slash, and remove everything from the forward slash from our formula. So whatever we have left after the forward slash is exactly the number of characters that we want to pick. So if we use that now here, there are two ways we can do that. I can simply say this, I can simply use this particular column here, this cell here, to substitute my position 10. The number of characters that I want to pick. So if I say number of characters that I want to pick, if I say go to G2, so what Excel will do is that it will go to G2 to look for the number of characters that I want to pick. So if I do that now, I will have this. And if I use my autofill, that will work out for the rest for me. This will work out for the rest for me. So this is a way we can do that. But another way we can do that is to combine everything in a formula. If you use this, take note, if anything happen with these particular columns, it will affect your formula here. If anything happen with these particular columns that you use to get this formula, it's going to definitely affect your formula here. If any of this column is deleted, it's going to affect your formula here. But all I try to get clear to us is, let's understand that we are going to use this particular function, which is finding the length of what we have in cell B2, and we are going to put that in brackets, and then we'll put this also, finding the position of the forward slash, we'll put it in brackets, and then we'll put a minus in between the two in our formula, and then we'll use our right function. So let's do that and see. Let's do that and see. The formula is a little bit long, so that's why I'm taking my time to break it down, so that when you see a lengthy formula like this, you will not be confused. The formula is a little bit long. So what I've just tried to do now is try my best to see how I can break it down to the simplest method that you can use to understand it. So I want to pick this particular one. I'll copy this. I just want to copy this. Press your escape key. So this is our formula. Equal right. Remember, we are using the right function. Equal right. Open bracket. Then this is going to be followed by where we want to pick the text from. That is B2, comma, and that's supposed to be followed by the number of characters we want to pick. But in this case, we don't know the number of characters we want to pick. So I'm going to use this and put the number of characters that we want to pick inside this particular cell, inside this particular bracket. So to get the number of characters we want to pick, we say we are combining two different functions to get that done. So the first function we want to use is the len function, which is len. We want to find the length of what we have in cell B2. We want to find the length of what we have in cell B2. When we get the length of what we have in cell B2, we want to minus that with, we are minusing that with the position of our forward slash. So this is what we are trying to do here. We are now looking for the length. We are now looking for the length of what we have in cell B2. When we get the length of what we have in cell B2, we will minus the position of the forward slash, and whatever we have left is the number of characters that we are looking for. So close your bracket and press your enter key, and that does it for us. I hope this is clear. I did not want to come straight to this very one because I know it's a little bit long and it sounds somehow confusing if you don't get the basics. So this is how we can get this done. All you can see here now is we are trying to combine different formula to get a particular problem solved. And that is what you can do in Excel. So in this case now, if anybody deletes this column, it's not going to affect our formula. But if we try to use this, it's another method we can use. But if you use this, when anything happens to any of these columns, it's going to affect your formula. In this class, we want to look at working with trim and len. Working with trim. Now let's look at this record. Supposing we have been given a record like this, can you see anything wrong with this record? When you look at this record properly, can you see anything wrong with this record? Now when you look at this record properly, you find that this record is having irregular spacing. What I mean irregular spacing, if you look at here now, there are some space before this very address. There are some space here, there are some space here. Then probably in front of the record here, there are some space, which we don't even know. So there are sometimes you download text from certain applications, and when the text arrive, they may arrive having irregular spacing. Then there are sometimes users may enter a record, and you are not there to monitor how this record are being entered by the users. So since you are not able to monitor how this record are being entered by the users, you may come across records that have this kind of issues. And when you are working with Excel, especially when you are working with text in Excel, you need to understand a lot of things. You need to understand how to do a lot of things. Especially how to clean up your data. And if you are working as a data analyst, there are certain records that you will come across that are like this. So these are dirty records, and we want to clean them up. So first of all, before we try to clean up the record, I want to show us something here. Let's look at the length of the record in this very column A. We want to look at the length in this very column, and we are going to use an Excel function that is called length. We'll talk about looking at the length. We are looking at the number of characters in this particular cell. So the Excel formula to do that is equal length, open bracket. What record do we want to look at? What is the text you want to find the length? The text we want to find the length is the text we have inside cell A2. The text we have inside cell A2. So close your bracket, enter, and that is telling us we have 28. When you autofill like this, it's telling us the text, the number of text we have inside this particular record. Now, if you look at the record here, if you count the record here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Now, the record here, as I can count here, there are 21. But Excel is telling us we have a 28, and that is because of the irregular spacing that we have here. Take note, Excel will count every space as a character. Every space you give, Excel will count it as a character. Now, let's copy this record now here. Let me copy this record here. I want to paste them here. Then, let's try to clean up this record now. Let's try to clean up this record and see the difference. When we try to clean up this record, we are not going to use the trim function. We are not going to use the Excel trim function. Trim. That is the function we can use to clean up this record, the irregular spacing in this record. So all you need to do is equal trim, open brackets. The record you want to trim, we have them in cell D2. So equal trim D2, close your bracket and press your enter key. And that will help us to remove the irregular space that are in cell D2. So when we use our autofill, everything has been removed for us. Now let's try the length and see. Let's now look for the length and see if they are still the same. Length. So the function to look for the length, remember, is equal length, open bracket. The cell we want to look for the length, and that is cell E2. E2. Close bracket and then enter. Now, this is telling us we have 22 record. 22 record. 22 characters. Now, let's look at what we had before so that you can see the difference of what we are talking about. In the first case, what we have in the first case was 28. Here now is 22. 24. Here now is 21. 23. Here is 33. 34. Here is 26. Now this is how we can remove irregular spacing. This is easier to be removed, to be done by using this very function than trying to, I know if you ask somebody now, somebody will say, okay, why not we put in our cursor here and remove this? That may work, but what if you have a lot of record like we have here? What if you are working with record that run into thousands of records? So you have to understand the function to remove the irregular spacing. Thank you very much. I hope you have been able to learn something from this very class. Thank you.